Welcome. This is a summary of the global climate for the year 2021. There were a large number of significant climate anomalies in 2021. The global average temperature was the 6th warmest on record. The Arctic sea ice and the Antarctic sea ice continued to fall. North America was the 7th warmest year on record, Europe the 9th, Asia the 7th, Africa the 3rd, and South America the 6th. Canada set a new all-time high temperature record for the country, as did Southern Europe. We had a large number of cyclones in the Atlantic this year, but overall the cyclone picture was fairly normal. Here is the NOAA calculated global average temperature for land and ocean combined. And as I said, it's the 6th warmest on record, with just above 0.8 degrees centigrade above the long-term average. And overall, since 1900, there has been a 1.4 degrees centigrade increase in global temperatures. We can break that down by hemisphere. As I said, global temperature was about 0.8 degrees centigrade above the long-term average, whereas the northern hemisphere was 1.1 degrees centigrade, and the southern hemisphere was 0.6 degrees centigrade above the long-term average. Now, the northern hemisphere is warming faster than the southern hemisphere because there is more land there than there is ocean. And the oceans warm less quickly than the land does. We can also break this down by season. These are 4 maps, one for each of the seasons. These are percentiles map, and they show where there are record warm and record cold areas. Record cold areas are indicated by dark blue, and as you will note, there are no dark blue pixels on these maps. So there were no record cold areas. Most of the map is above average temperature, well above average temperature, or record warmest, and that's the darkest red. And you can see there's quite a few pixels of those, particularly recently. There are a few cool areas, particularly this area off the west coast of South America, and that is because we are currently in a La Nina. Here are the global temperatures since 1950 plotted with a color code showing whether this was during an El Nino, a La Nina, or ENSO neutral. If it was during an El Nino, which is a warm period, these are marked red. If it's a La Nina, which is a generally cold period, that is marked in blue, and ENSO neutral is marked in gray. And as you can see, there's a general trend in all 3 of these to increasing temperatures as time goes by. I did a bit of analysis of my own and came up with this. I took the La Nina years off of that plot. That is the Southern Oscillation Index greater than 0. And you can see that the trend over the long term is a general warming, and it's accelerating. The 2021 is marked here on the top right. You can do the same for El Nino years and you get this. This is SOI less than 0. And you can see again there's a strong warming trend, and it's accelerating faster during El Nino years than it is during La Nina years, which I thought was interesting. Well, how does 2021 compare with the last few years? Here are the 11 warmest years on record. And you can see 2021 is the 6th, as I've said before, with a 0.84 degrees centigrade above the long-term average marked on here. The order is 2016 is the warmest year, followed by 2020, 2019, 2015, 2017, 2021, 2018, and 2014. That means the last 8 consecutive years have been the 8 warmest years on record. The chances of that happening by accident are almost 0. Is this just a fluke result, but just caused by the way that NOAA averages its data? No. I've looked at several other different groups that look at different data and analyze them differently from NOAA, and they get pretty much the same results. This is Berkeley Earth, and that had it 2021 as the 6th warmest year. The European Union Copernicus mission had it as the 5th warmest year. The UK Met Office had it as the 5th warmest year, but that was only based on January through November of 2021. They've yet to include the December results, and that might change things slightly. The NASA Goddard Institute had it as the 6th warmest year. One of the other problems that's going on at the moment is the heat content is rising in the ocean. And you can see there are large areas of the oceans that are heating up very, very rapidly. There is one cool area here, which of course is associated with the La Nina, but nonetheless, all the rest of these are warming up. This is for depth between 0 and 700 meters. There's another cool area here just off the Greenland coast, and that's been attributed to ice melt from Greenland flowing into the northern Atlantic. And some people are worrying that that might slow the Gulf Stream and cause unusual cooling in Europe. We can actually look at the numbers for the amount of energy being stored in the ocean, and it's quite amazing. Overall, the world has accumulated nearly 19 times 10 to the 22 joules of energy. Now that's an amazing amount of energy. It's the equivalent to the total energy contained in all the uranium on Earth. So if you dug up all the uranium on Earth, put it into nuclear reactors and generated all the power you can from them and push that in the ocean, that's the amount of energy that we've been dumping into the ocean so far. We had 94 tropical cyclones around the globe. That's about average. But with warm oceans, you expect there to be a lot of cyclones and them to be much stronger than before. Global sea ice is at its 5th lowest extent. You've got the northern hemisphere here. You can see it's well below average for December of 2021. And the Antarctic has taken a huge dive considering that last December it was actually above average. It's at its 5th lowest since records began. Well, let's take a look at the status of the El Nino La Nina situation. We have La Nina prevailing at the moment. La Nina is thus depressing global temperatures because a large proportion of the Pacific Ocean is cooler than normal. This will likely continue through spring of 2022, followed by a period of neutral conditions, which we don't have a good estimate for how long that will last. But should we fall back into an El Nino, then global temperatures will start to skyrocket. For those that still have some impression that the sun is affecting the climate, I can assure you that it isn't. Take a look at the sun in the last year. Today is on the right. That's what the corona looks like at the moment. On the left, it was how it was a year ago, and you can see it was much quieter. There are 4 very small, unimpressive regions on the disk at that time. A year later, we have all of these. And these are much bigger and stronger regions than they were back in a year ago. Also, you note that the extent of the corona, how far that fuzzy outline of the sun goes, is much smaller back a year ago than it is now. That means the corona is hotter and more active than it was before. Unfortunately, the glaciers and the ice caps are continuing to melt. This is a picture from Antarctica where a 130-meter wide waterfall suddenly appeared when a river formed across one of the ice shelves, and you can see the water plunging into the sea. Then there's the famous Antarctic blood red waterfall shown here. This is being caused by the water running through iron deposits before it reaches the sea. Here we're back up into Greenland, and you can see there's a little polar bear walking across the ice there, but there's an equivalent waterfall forming in the ice. In fact, interestingly enough, it's coming from not from the surface, but below the surface of the ice. A lot of large lakes are forming in the Arctic. These eventually burrow their way down into the base of the glacier and lubricate it so it goes a lot faster. These lakes can disappear overnight, quite amazingly. And also, as in the Antarctic, there are some major rivers forming in the Arctic. You can see from the scale here of the human just on the upper right of that picture. 2021 was the year of the billion-dollar disasters. There were 20 of them in the United States in that year. That's the 3rd largest number on record. There were 688 deaths due to extreme weather conditions. So what conclusions can we draw from all of this? 2021 saw the continuation of the long-term trend of rising global temperatures. Luckily, they have been slightly slowed by persistence of this La Nina. We've had a La Nina or neutral conditions for the last 2 years. Global sea ice continues to shrink. Glaciers are continuing to melt, thin, and retreat. And based on the sun's levels of activity, this cycle is not going to be part of a grand solar minimum, so we won't have the quote cooling temperatures, even though there wouldn't be any, from a grand solar minimum to save us from anthropogenic global warming. So all in all, we have a serious climate situation, and it's getting worse. On that cheery note, stay safe, and until next time, goodbye.